Well, here we have a 1998 Honda Accord EX four-door sedan, four-cylinder, 2.3 liter. It has a whopping 279,000 miles on it. I am almost ready to pull out the engine. I've got everything unhooked for the most part. I'm taking out a F23A1 engine and a, if you can see it down there, a BAXA transmission, and I'm going to replace it with the Japanese domestic market engine F23A and the MAPA automatic transmission. There are a number of sensors and other items you have to transfer over, which I will point out here in just a minute. So I've disconnected all the hoses for the water inlets and radiator. That's why there's no radiator here, because I took it out. I've also disconnected all the water lines on the cylinder head and in the block in the back. I have taken off the exhaust manifold, which you will have to transfer over to the JDM one, because that one has a different port on the bottom that does not match your exhaust. It also does not have a oxygen sensor hole. Apparently they don't use those in Japan, I guess. So that's something you'll have to change out. You also have to change out 4 or 5 sensors on your transmission. I've disconnected the AC unit and just left it here because I can get it out. I left the refrigerant lines intact because I don't want to have to recharge it, so I just took it off. There's 4 bolts that come out of it down here, and you can just pull it out from underneath the alternator. One of the things I noticed was the JDM power steering pump has a 90 on it, so I'm probably just going to take this one off and put that one on put mine on, old one on the JDM engine. Also had to disconnect fuel line back there, vacuum hoses, throttle cables, lots of sensors that need to be unhooked on the fuel rail, fuel injector sensors, power steering sensor, lots and lots of sensors. As you can see, I've already taken off the wiring harness and laid it off to the side. Everything is plugged in except for the main bundle of wires going to the ECU. So I took the time to label them just in case I need to, if I forgot exactly how it went. So I think a lot of them are color coded and shape identified, but I just thought for good measure I would label everything, including all my hoses. So that's what I did, because I'm not in a hurry and I'm taking my time. This is my first attempt. Watched people do this online, but it's my first time doing it on a import car. I'm a classic car guy, but I got this car for my daughter so she can learn to drive in before I give her the nice souped up Mustang that I got for her. So she'll have this for first year or so till she gets a little experience behind the wheel. Anyway, yeah, it's a little bit of work, but it's not too complicated. Took off the battery and all that good stuff down here, the battery plate, along with all the snorkel on the intake, the air cleaner, all that good stuff came out. Get you access to all that. So I've got it now, I've got it hooked up. Getting ready to pull the final 3 motor mounts out. There's one right here on the driver's side. It's the front on the timing cover side. I've got new motor mounts coming in. I don't know if these are bad, but I just decided to go ahead and put them in, because if one of them went bad, it'd be a major bummer to have to do all this work again. So it's worth the $200 for these 3 motor mounts. That's the right here is the driver's, or the passenger side transmission mount. It goes on the back side of the transmission below the distributor, and then way back there is the that one right there with the hydraulic line is the rear motor mount. So I've got to take that off. There's the 1 bolt right on top, you can see just below the intake. So yeah, that's about it. I just got a new paint job on this thing back in August. It is now December, so we're putting in the rest of the part. Even though this car's a lot of miles out, its body's in good shape, the interior is nice, and it doesn't have any rust or accidents, so that's a good thing. And I got it for next to nothing, so that's even better. Got to take out the drive axles here. That's a little bit of work because you got to take the whole front suspension off. Well, you got to take off the tie rod here, and then you've got to disconnect the lower ball joint. Now, some people pound that lower ball joint out way down there, but I couldn't get these to come out, so I bought a handy dandy ball joint separator for $30 from your local AutoZone. And then once you get that out, then you can pound the center out of the CV axle, and you take and wire this up with a cord or wire or something, so you can pull this out of the way, and then you're able to get enough room in there to knock that back out. And then you have to go way up in there inside the tranny and pry out the CV axle from the transmission. And then once there's a fork that goes on here, looks like this. Once you take this out, your CV axle runs through that, and you can't get it out without taking that off. So 3 things you need to take off: tie rod end, lower ball joint, and the wishbone suspension. There's 2 bolts to it. There's a I think it's a 17 millimeter down here on the bottom and a 14 up here on the top. It's no nut, it just screws in. So yeah, and after I get this engine in, or out I should say, I'm actually going to redo all the suspension with new outer tie rods, inner tie rods, new spring coils and shocks, along with new ball joints, upper control arm, and upper ball joint control arm bushings, strut rod bushings, idler arm, and this and that, all the stuff under the suspension, because it's, as you can tell by looking at this one ball joint, it's just pretty much shot. So without any miles, I thought I'm just going to replace the whole thing for the suspension. So, and then over here is our lovely JDM, Japanese domestic import. This is the sister of the American model. This is the F23A with the MGPA automatic transmission. So some of the things you'll have to change is, you'll notice here the power steering has that 90 I was talking about. So I'm going to use my one from my